Hi everyone, thank you for joining me for my week 2 presentation for political economy for Professor James Curtis course, and I am doing market failure in transportation. So of course transportation is in high demand by everyone because people need to be moved, goods and products need to be moved, whether that be to another country or just state to state. There's always a demand for transportation. And unfortunately, there were monopolies in the beginning of the transportation industry, just because it was so new and so cutthroat. So the regulation actually started with the railroads in 1887 to cut down the abuse and monopolies, and that was with the Interstate Commerce Commission. They were in control of providing fair rates so that railroads could not charge more for a short haul than for a long haul over the same route. And then it also spilled over into the oil industry as well. There were monopolies there, mainly by Rockefeller, which caused the regulations in 1906 to be put in place. This also carried over into the motor industry, and that having to be regulated in 1935 because there was so much competition within the motor carriers and oil that truckers were actually charging rates that did not even cover their operating costs and try to make up for that by avoiding maintenance, which then compromised the safety of other drivers on the road. So that was why there was a need for government intervention in 1935 for motor carriers. And then moving on into 1938, airlines were placed under the new Civil Aeronautics Board to regulate routes, services, entries and exits, and also rates. And then in 1940, the waterways and the freight industry was also regulated due to, again, rates. That's always the issue, making sure that there are fair rates being charged. And then unfortunately, this type of regulation, it was not as successful as the government had hoped, and they began to cut back on their regulations and actually began to deregulate airlines, motor carriers, freights, railroads, buses, stuff like that in the 70s. There is still regulation today, it's just not to the same extent as it was back then. Mainly the Department of Transportation is focused on the safety of users, whether that be maintaining the railroads themselves so that the trains can run efficiently, also making sure the planes are maintained so that they can fly without obviously crashing. Same with boats, making sure that freight carriers are maintained so that passengers and goods are safe. So for the most part, they're more concerned with safety rather than the cutthroat rates and monopolies that there were in the past. And these were my references for my presentation. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great rest of your weekend.